Okay, we are ready to resume. This message is actually for all of you out in TV land. We apologize that there is no video. The camera simply is not found when we're trying to set it up, but the audio is going out. So please bear with us. Thank you for your patience, and we are ready to resume.
I'm Marty Sawyer, Lot 180. I'm going to piggyback on Lynn Troy's question about the equity members, the 30-day wonders, and current members. So I've been here 3 years, been a current member. Ever since I've been here, my rates have gone up 5% every year, as the equity members we know, and the 30-day wonders, they stay flat. For the next 5 years, I believe, will be their 15-year term. Is there any chance of offering that deal that the 30-day wonders got to current members to put us all in the same playing field as memberships? It would also increase the membership because a lot more people would join if we were all paying the same rate. That's for all three of you.
Yeah, those rates are a product of a contract that was agreed to by the HOA, voted on by the population, and they are where they are. And quite honestly, I'd feel the same whether I was a 30-day wonder or not. Where I come from, a deal is a deal, and particularly from the equity members. They gave up an ownership situation they invested a significant amount of money in and presumably could have sold to a third party and generated some cash, and they chose not to do it. So they are the lion's share of the numbers involved. I don't know how many 30-day wonders are left, Jeff, a few of us.
I actually have the numbers right here in front of me.
Oh, go.
So I'll jump in a little bit.
Go.
So I guess originally the 30-day wonders, there were 14 memberships, 7 single and 7 family from the records that I've been able to uncover. As of 2024, I don't have the 2025 membership year, but the 2024 membership year, there was 10 of those 14 equity membership, or 30-day wonder memberships still available. Equity memberships in 2016, when the golf course was transitioning, there was a total of 113 memberships, 74 single and 39 family. Now, for 2024, there was actually 48 of those 113 that are still active. So its numbers have continued to drop off. In relation to, we've done specials in previous years where in order to try to encourage people to sign up for memberships, we offered reduced rates, a discount from the regular rate, and with very, very little success. We might have gotten 1 or maybe 2 memberships in, so very little. So we definitely need to look at what can we do to grow, okay? What we need to do to grow the revenue, whether it's memberships or whether it's daily play. It's the cost increases, the expenses of operating the golf course are far outstripping the growth in revenue. Revenue has grown for daily fee. It's up, my numbers here, I got them up by about 80,000 actual from 2020 to 2024 numbers, 362,000 to 444,000, so about an $80,000 increase, while memberships have remained relatively flat. So even with the price increases, the growth hasn't come.
The deals I've negotiated, I've stood behind in my lifetime. So I think that the deals that were made with the equity members, and believe me, I'm suffering right along with you, Marty. We moved here roughly about the same time, and my wife and I pay for which is going to be almost $5,700 this year. But I agree with the assessment that there's got to be some solutions found, and where they lay is a question for another day, I suppose.
Okay, so I've just got one other question. What would be your top priority if you were elected for the residents of Summer Glen?
To reinstitute the comments at the end of the meeting would certainly be one of the top ones, but also to get the board meetings better organized so that the board operates more efficiently, so to make sure the board has the information needed when they come to the meeting. They've already had a chance to review the packet and can make informed, objective decisions rather than a whole lot of discussion with no supporting information to go along with it. So to get the board meetings better organized.
Barbara Gaynor, Lot 1015. One question that I have, will the board have an outlook on how the community looks? We're supposed to have people here for maintenance to work around the community. Our sidewalks are a detriment to us as older people here. I walk a lot on the front, I think that's 154th Street. You can hardly walk on those sidewalks. There's debris all over them. What happened to our maintenance people? Are they taking care of it? We have the trees that are lower than, I'm only 4'11", and my head hits the treetops. It's not right. I mean, it's a community that should be looked after or controlled by our maintenance people or whoever is in control of that. So that's my question.
Okay.
You want it? You want me to? Go ahead, you can go. Right, the in-house maintenance staff is two people and a manager, as I understand it, and I think on a janitor as well. But yes, Barb, it is critically important that the physical appearance of the community is welcoming and up to standards. It's a key facet in protecting the wealth and value of your property. I don't know that has ever been consistently given the attention that it truly deserves by this board and presumably some of the former boards as well. But it is important, and if we're going to spend money, places like that are places that should get a higher priority in the consideration than some others, because physical appearance is appropriate, and as the community ages, more and more needs to be done.
Yeah, at 4'11", I apologize. I'm 6'4", and it would really be a hazard for me, and it needs to be addressed.
Obviously, as board members, the board is responsible for taking care of what we already have. We have an operating budget that covers expenses of repairing things as we go. We also have a reserve study to take care of the larger expenses, and that needs to be followed so that we don't wait until something fails. If something's approaching, for example, I'll use an air conditioner as an example. If it's 20 years old already, let's not wait until it breaks. Let's go ahead, the money's in the reserve, let's go ahead and spend the money to do that. But it is important for our maintenance staff to take care of the day-to-day things, and that's one of the reasons why I'm running for the board again, is because I've seen this past year, we have lapsed back. We were making some progress, not saying we was perfect, but we have lapsed back, and there needs to be more accountability.
Lou Farinello, Lot 121. My question is, a few years ago, we tried to put through a fee to the new people that would buy the house, and they would pay a fee of $2,000 or $2,400 to start it out with. Then we moved to a $1,200 and tried those attempts. They weren't successful in the attempts. But as we've seen through these 3 years, our dues continually go up, and they're gonna go up again. And the fact is, if we would have if 3 years ago, we would have taken that money, just the $1,200, and only 20 houses being sold through each year, those 3 years, we would have brought in $72,000. That alone would help to offset some of our costs And the thing is, are you guys in favor to it? I want to ask you honestly to move it again into that direction to try to do something. If we're talking about budgeting, trying to help it out, that's one way to get money in. Each one.
Well, if that concept percolates up to the surface again, I think it is more incumbent upon the board to provide the community with the full array of information as it relates to a program like this. When it was done in the past, it was a promotion and sell, which I think was inappropriate because there are pluses and minuses. It sounds great that you get $2,000 or whatever you want to put in the new owner fee. That gets added on to the price of somebody's house. And if you look at the listings of many of the houses that are for sale in Summer Glen right now, they have been on the market an awful long time. People have a terrible problem getting their house sold and getting a house sold for how much money they want for it. An added fee will do nothing to improve that. But the issue, whether you're for it or not, would depend on the facts and circumstances. For me, would depend on the facts and circumstances at the time. But my primary goal would be that the folks who actually vote on it learn everything about the ramifications.
I couldn't agree more. I think right now we're in a situation where there's a lull. I hate to take a guess. I used to drive around the neighborhood, and many of you have seen me with my lab in the passenger seat, listing the lot numbers that are for sale. And it's probably in the 50s and maybe mid-50s right now.
43.
Well, okay. Are that counting the ones by owners too?
Well, if they don't have a sign out, I'm going by
Okay,
what sign.
but I'm saying that, yes, it's at least 40 and maybe low 50s. And the time on market, there's been a lot of houses here for sale for quite a long time. But I think that it maybe needs to look at if the market were to pick up. And I don't know what that'll take. Obviously the traffic and the high school and different other factors, outside factors that people may be afraid of, whether they're true factors or not, come into play.
I was a member of the board both times when the original CIA terminology was used and then the NOAs the second time around. So both times the board said, okay, let's examine this. It does require a change to our governing documents to implement that. And both times the community rejected the idea. So whether we go back a third time, I'm not sure if that makes any kind of sense anytime soon.
Thank you.
Roland LaFontaine, Lot 230. I want to talk about contracts that we enter into here at Summer Glen. No work finished, no pay. That's a really good concept. It used to be called retention in construction contracts. There are firms on the internet that you can get contracts written. You got to pay for them, but they're done by AE firms, lawyer firms, whatever, law firms, excuse me, that you can pay for, that are written up, they're done by law, like I said, law firms or whatever, and they meet retention or whatever. Otherwise, if we don't get these, we're going to be left holding the short end of the stick on our contracts. You've got to have good, solid contract. Thank you.
I take it there was no question, so
I want to hear about that.
ask a question.
That is a question.
Do they agree? Do they not agree?
Jeff, thank you. You answered my question. Can the other two candidates answer my question about what would be your top priority?
Good evening, Michael Cardillo, Lot 27. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
I would say my top priority would try to be to install a little healing, because I think the system we have with the email and the waiting to get an answer is contributed to the tone of the venom that's going back and forth. And I think we need to open it up and heal those wounds a little bit and get a creative dialogue rather than what we have going on right now.
I think my top priority is very similar to what Jeff was talking about. The board needs to become much more businesslike, much more efficient. And to start that, the information being presented to the board to vote on needs to be complete. It needs to be filled out. All the pre-approvals need to be done. That's a management responsibility, and the board should insist that that kind of information is the only thing that they will act on in a meeting, or they will kick it back to the management company. The board should then be very concerned to make sure that there is complete follow-up on contractual purchases to see that the value is actually received for the money that's paid. That is critical to operating this association with proper financial prudency and restraints.
All right, we have another email question.
This is from Don Lunio, Lot 280. It says, since the low-hanging fruit of new off-property golfers has already been gathered, and to reach higher fruit costs more money, what plan does each respective board member have to cut the soaring cost of the golf budget, since cutting costs, what plan does each prospective board member have to cut the soaring cost of golf budget, since cutting cost is much easier and effective than marketing for new members? And he says that's why Amazon is laying off 10,000 people instead of looking for new buyers.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, I'll
Left-
take it. I'll go first.
Left to right. Left to right.
So I agree with the residents' comments that cutting cost, it's just a swipe of the pen. And you can say, okay, we're not going to put that in the budget, but you have to maintain the golf course. I mean, if you just keep slashing costs and the golf course deteriorates, you're never going to be able to grow the revenue side. With inflation and everything, just like all costs, the golf course costs have gone up. The bigger problem is the revenue side of the equation. We're not growing revenue nearly as fast as the cost of operating the golf course goes up. So as I said earlier, whoever the new golf operations manager is going to be, her critical role needs to be growing the revenue for the golf course.
I think some of the things that were looked at were like Golf Now, and I think sometimes that cut too deep. With the condition of the golf course improving, which I can't speak enough about that, and I think it's only going to get better. I think we do a little research into what similar courses, be they East Lake or whoever in the area, Twisted Oak, find out what they're charging, cut a couple bucks off of that, and promote it a little bit, maybe by pay-per-click. I mean, printed advertising is very expensive, and it's not too effective at this point in time. So I think if you do the pay-per-click campaign with the right pricing, it would increase, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a period of time.
My perception is the number one thing that has to be done is to acquire a competent and ambitious manager of the golf course. We've had felons and we've had retirees and who really didn't want to be here. We need someone who wants to be here and is competent and will do the job and importantly, will get the support from the board and the community to allow him to him or her to do the right thing. And it's like the old movie line, if you build it, they will come, but you have to have an attractive situation to entice people to come here and spend money to play golf. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And we are not the price market leader, we are a price follower. And as Bill mentioned, we can't set our prices ahead of time because we don't know what the market's gonna be 3 months from now. But a competent manager will track that market and adjust our prices appropriately every day.
Okay, Roland LaFontaine, Lot 230. You heard what I said before about our contracts. It was addressed a little bit. I just want to hear comments from you guys about our contracts, because right now our contracts are very open-ended and they leave a lot to be desired. We should have good, tight contracts, and that's what I meant when I said that about retention. Now I want comments from you guys about what should we do about our contracts. Bill addressed it a little bit. I'd like to hear comments from the three of you about our contracts and what we should do to tighten them up. Thank you.
Well, Roland, I agree conceptually, and I don't know whether, retention, my understanding, is a construction contract method that's used a lot, but what we do need to try and do as we do contracts, include in them the appropriate penalty that they don't get paid for when they don't do X, we don't pay them Y. It seems like you're right. A lot of the things we do now, well, they haven't done this or they haven't done that, but we've been writing the check every month. That's got to stop. We've got to hold the contractors responsible to do what they are supposed to do and what we are paying to do. That's a management function. I think as a board member, I would love to stay right on the back of First Service to make sure they get that done with the contractors.
One of the things that I just know by rumor, and I don't know if it's true or not, so I really hesitate to say anything about it, but one of the things is, and I know the roofing company we used on this building here uses independent contractors. And that's a whole different ballpark if you're not familiar with it. And one of the things you need to have in place is a certificate of insurance as an also insured. Because if somebody falls off the roof here and they're independent, you open up a whole new can of worms. You're worried about the liquor license on the bar, and that's just as devastating if something were to happen. So that needs to be in place before first nail's driven.
Roland, first of all, it starts with accountability. There's a lot of scope of work preparation that's done for the contracts. When the contract is signed, they're signing up to complete the scope of work. So there needs to be accountability to make sure the contractor we've hired fulfills that scope of work. When I was on the board, we had quarterly review meetings with up to 3 board members present, meeting with property management and the specific contractor to review what are the issues that we're having, what needs to be done to correct it, before it can turn into a major problem where we said, oh, we need to cancel the contract, we need to go after penalties and whatnot. We want the work done according to the scope of work. I don't know why the meetings were canceled, the quarterly review meetings were canceled. They don't exist anymore. I think we should get them reinstated so we're having that regular dialogue with our main service providers.
I think I'm up now. All right. Good evening, Michael Cardillo, Lot 273. First of all, you three gentlemen, thank you for stepping up and volunteering to be part of what sometimes is very rewarding and sometimes can be a very challenging assignment, so thank you. One of the things that was said earlier tonight was about fiduciary responsibility as a board member. And both in the past and currently, there are some things that have been a little bit questionable, a little bit controversial. What I'd like to understand from each and every one of you is, what do you feel is the appropriate process that needs to be gone through by the board to ensure that every dollar spent of the residents' money is done so in a ethical and in a proper fashion.
Left to right.
Okay, I'll start off. It starts off with, as I said earlier, having a complete package available for the board at the board meeting, so whenever they are voting on something, they know exactly what they're voting on. With the contract that we have with property management, there is a spending limit placed on them that as long as it is in the normal operating budget, they can spend up to $1,000. Anything in excess of $1,000, they have to get board approval for. So that's one of the controls that are in place, make sure that the board is the ones that have the final decision on what money is being spent. When it comes to reserve spending, it doesn't make any difference what the dollar amount is. It could be $100,000 or it could be $10. Only the board is authorized to spend money from reserves, no one else. So it starts with making sure all those decisions for spending money other than the $1,000 that the property management is authorized to do, that it goes through the board and the board knows exactly what it is, services are being provided for that money.
I think along with it, the first word that popped into my mind was audit. To be able to retrace and make sure there's a paper trace and to find out the responsible parties.
I think it goes back to one of the earlier comments that I made, is that to enforce and follow up a contract, it should be a clean contract. The data, the information provided for the board to do their homework on, and that is a responsibility of every director, is to do their homework before they go to a meeting to vote on something, to ask all of the right questions about what is going into a contract, who the vendor is, what's their history, what experience has we or First Service had with them before. So if you do your work on the front end to find out who you're doing business with and why, and understand the details of what you're buying and why, the follow-up becomes relatively easy. Without that, it just becomes a morass of information that you can't pin down. He said, she said, that kind of thing.
Marty Sawyer, Lot 180. Somebody mentioned the importance of committees to the board, that the board and the committees need to work together with the community to make this whole thing work. So my question is, to each and one of you, would you reinstate the Golf Operations Committee? Yes or no, and why or why not?
Left or right again?
Sure.
Okay.
Why not?
With the existing charter that exists for the Golf Committee, no, I would not recommend reinstating it. The charter would have to be significantly modified, and that modification would need to be done in conjunction with whoever the new golf operations manager is, so that he or she would have input into that. Input, not the final decision. Again, the final decision is up to the board. 4 board members, 4 of the 7 board members have to agree to it in order to it to happen legitimately. So I think there is a lot of issues with the way the charter was written, and it created a lot of duplication of effort and finger pointing, so I would not support under the current charter.
I agree with 99% of those comments, but I personally feel there's never enough eyes looking at something. That being said, everybody has their own priorities, so it's a double-edged sword.
I also agree virtually 100% with Jeff's comments. I think if a reconstituted golf committee is reconstituted, they should be directly in relationship to the manager and basically doing projects for the manager to help him do his job and to report things they see to him. And the only time they should deviate outside of that circle if they have a problem with what is happening with the manager. Then and only then should they be doing anything other than working for and with the manager.
I was. Remember, I can turn off the mics. Carol Steck, Lot 1006. I think most people agree that, yes, the golf operation is one of the, or should be one of the priorities. So far, we've heard, okay, well, we need a good golf operations manager. So since FSR took over, we've had 2 of them. Both have been not successful. We've been without one for 2 months, and as far as I can tell, not a whole lot of anything's been done. I don't know how many of you might have read last week's weekly email when I finally submitted one to the email address and asked questions about its membership time. Have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? And please don't tell me you haven't done it because we don't have a golf manager. And the answer was pretty much, we don't have a golf manager. I would like to hear from each of you what you would do in the interim to get things on track, and how would you help ensure that we, 3rd time's the charm, hire the right person? Thank you. All 3 of you.
Well, unfortunately for all 3 of us up here, hopefully we're going to have a golf operations manager before we have a board election. So it's going to be the current board that decides who the new golf operations manager is going to be. Obviously, I've already stated, whoever that person is, I think it should be someone that's very experienced in managing a golf course to get us closer to being at least break even, rather than the significant losses we have. I mentioned earlier, got to grow the revenue side, so that person has to be actively involved in trying to grow the memberships as well as growing the daily fee play. I don't know how else to answer your question. I mean, unfortunately, you know, the 3 of us, we're going to have no input into whoever that new person's going to be.
Do we know that for sure? Election's only, what, 6 weeks away?
Not a question for us, it's a question for the current board.
Certainly we don't have, hope we don't have any input to it, because that means you got another month, 2 months, or whatever it is, before it happens. The current structure says the acquisition of the golf manager is a first service responsibility. Largest property management company in the United States, as I understand it. They should be able to do it. It's not an easy job, because to get what we need here, we need someone that's competent, experienced, and most of all, wants to be here. That's a tough call, and you know, we can make fun of them and the difficult experiences that we have gone through in the last year with people in that position, but it is a tough job. But it's given the situation with our deficit that exists in this community, the next one is a critical hire that we get it right, but as a member of the succeeding board that person has to be given the full responsibility and support of the board to be able to be successful in their job. It's a tough job.
And sometimes in the hiring process, timing is everything. Don't know this to be a true fact, but I asked the pro shop today, what's the time frame on this? Well, we decided on a candidate and they got a better offer elsewhere. So sometimes the deck of cards comes crashing down. But I agree, we need to get something in place.
Donnie Wyckoff, Lot 664. While I've heard the comments about reinstating the opportunities for questions at the end of a board meeting, most of our meetings, be they workshops, be they board meetings, tend to be sort of more one way from the audience to you, to which oftentimes no answers come. What's your plans, each of you, to improve communications with the community?
Well, I think the first step is having face-to-face, just like we're doing right now. I don't know who dreamt up the email thing, but I think it was just throwing gasoline on the coals. And I think that we can agree to disagree. And, you know, your voice needs to be heard. You have as much at risk as any of us sitting here on this stage. You know, you pay the same HOA fees we do, so you need to be heard.
Yeah, I think the first thing is everyone, both sides, is this should not be an adversarial relationship between the directors and the property owners. You know, we, as Bill said, we live here, we pay the same dues, we look at the same problems, and we all want the same thing. If we can, you can disagree on things, but as long as you don't have to question the other person's motivation, you have your discussions, you have your debates, and that's how you get good answers, is to hearing all sides. So the other thing we used to do on occasion that I used to enjoy, we used to have the regular coffee and convos where 3 or 2 or whatever, a certain number of directors were available and in a room, and they were there for a few hours, and property owners can come and ask them whatever questions they want, and you could have a conversation across the table, which is a little easier, and you can get further along than you can with a straight back and forth question and answer on the stage with an audience, for sure.
So, as far as the formal meetings, whether it be a workshop or the actual board meeting, as everybody is aware, there's 2 times for resident input. First time is at the beginning of the meeting to comment on agenda items only. So it's pretty difficult for residents to have a question or comment concerning an agenda item when there's nothing in the packet to explain what is going to be discussed. So that was the first thing that, not only for the benefit of the board, but for the benefit of all the homeowners, that the board has a complete package that gets sent out ahead of time so that people, whether it be the board members or the homeowners, can see what's going to be discussed, what's in the packet. If they have questions, what they see in the packet, they can ask the question. But if it's not in the packet, how can you even ask a question? It just makes no sense. In the back half, when the board adjourns the meeting, so the meeting is now over, they open it up. The board has historically opened it up for resident comments. There will be no decisions made. The meeting has been adjourned. It wasn't an agenda item, so there's nothing to vote on. If it's something that's a pretty simple answer, then the board should provide that answer. But if it's something that requires further discussion, then it's going to have to make it onto a workshop schedule later on or onto a board agenda for a vote. But when you don't have the information at the beginning of the meeting and you don't allow comments at the end of the meeting, it pretty much shuts down all homeowner input, which is unacceptable.
Hi, Bob Saltzman, Lot 1007. On this same topic, I've been experiencing the email, and I think it is a very good system, but I don't think it should be at the exclusion of comments at the end of the meeting. Would you be in favor of allowing emails to be sent to the board, as is going around now, with the requirement that the board answers those emails in a timely way, and also reestablishing the comments at the end? And I'm wondering what your opinion on that, because not everybody likes to come to the mic like me, and some people feel more comfortable writing, and this way both ways of communicating with the community could be adopted. Would you agree with that? For all of you, thank you.
Go ahead, left to right.
Left to
Why
right,
not?
okay,
Yeah,
we're going.
absolutely.
The board, it's emails to the board has always been out there as an option. When I first came on the board, and for the 4 years I was on the board, I was the liaison to property management. So just rough numbers, probably 90+% of the emails that came to the board during that period of time were more of comments and questions about, hey, my lawn wasn't cut today, and things like that. It was more things that needed to be addressed by property management rather than requiring a board decision. So the way it was handled is property management opened those emails, looked at it. If it was something that they could address, they would go ahead and address it, and they were supposed to get back to the homeowner with, thank you for your email, we've seen it, this is what action we're going to take. If it involves something more involved, there's weekly meetings with property management that the board has. Those would come to that weekly meeting. Property management would bring that to the liaison and what other board members were at that meeting and say, hey, this is more complex than what we can address ourselves just as property management. We need board involvement, and then it would potentially evolve into a workshop topic or a board, actual board meeting topic. So that's always out there, and I continue supporting having that option. But again, most of it can be handled by property management without the board being involved in each and every one of those items.
I'm kind of on the fence on this one, to be honest with you, because it's been my experience, and maybe if the discussions were opened up, the emails wouldn't be as vicious as they are right now. But oftentimes, some people, I'm not saying all, but some people will say something in an email that they would never say over that microphone, and of a vicious nature. But as long as there's some kind of filter on it, I don't care how the communications happens, but I know we can't continue the way we're going right now. Not for long, it's not healthy.
My primary problem with the email system that we have now is that it's a broadcast. I think every question that a property owner has deserves an answer, and you ask a director the question, you will get their opinion. I'll be happy to answer anybody's questions. But when you provide a broad forum, it becomes, how can you separate an honest question looking for an answer to someone who's looking to make a point so they get it splattered all over their, the whole community via communications electronically? I don't think that's productive. I think the direct conversations, either in a conversational forum at the end of a board meeting, or a phone call, or a personal email. If someone sends me an email, tell me, what about this, what about that, I'll be happy to answer it. But when you have the kind of broad distribution you have them now, it goes to the board. How can you get a board answer without a meeting? You know, one person can't speak for the board.
Dick Hatch, Lot 1011. My question is, before I say that, is in the golf course. I'm a golfer. I play 3 times a week, once here, twice outside, and there's reasons for that, okay? My question is, since 2019 through end of 2024, the golf course has a deficit of $2.4 million. This year, through the end of August, is another $450,000. So we're pushing $3 million in a deficit. Do you think it's time, do we set up a committee? I think you already have a group of board members there, okay, who work with the golf course now, to start thinking about the future. Can we continue this?
I don't know, sorry, Dick, I'm not sure if I fully understand your question.
Based upon our history, okay, of the golf course, the deficit, and I'm a golfer, I love golf, okay? Should we be thinking about the future? What is your vision for the future of this golf course if we continue on this basis? We're gonna be pushing well over $3 million by the end of this year, well over $3 million deficit. And not that everybody's tried their efforts and so forth, but unfortunately they've been in vain. We're still doing the same thing, raise rates. Well, that doesn't work, okay? Marketing and advertising is 2 different things. They're not the same. And I don't think we fully understand that right now. My question was, should we be thinking, a committee, thinking about the future? What if we keep doing this? What might be some of the things we can look at now instead of being hurried at the very end of this?
Are you referring to looking at doing away with the golf course? Is that?
No, I'm not saying that. It may come to that point. You can't keep doing what we're doing right now. Jeff, you can't keep doing that. I'm just saying a committee to start thinking, a plan, okay? maybe things we should think about the future if things keep going the way they are. Should we try to come up with a group like that? You have 3 people right now
Dick.
who go on the golf course, right? Could they be,
Dick.
do that?
I'm sorry, I asked for clarification on the question, so my fault. Again, I think 3 of us, we've kind of answered that question several times already. It starts with getting a good golf operations manager in here. I think there's some in the community that think all is lost, let's start looking at dumping the golf course. I keep hearing people saying that, let's get rid of it, let's change it to 9 holes and so on. We need a good, competent golf operations manager. So stated that already several times today. I have no idea what the board is, whether they're close. I believe they're close to hiring someone, but I don't know that for a fact. But it's getting the right person in here. I mean, we thought we had the right person twice already, and obviously that didn't work out. They interviewed very well, but when it came to actual performance, it didn't happen. So hopefully, 3rd time's a charm here, but we need that person. That is a critical position for this golf course, and if we don't get a competent person in there, then we're going to keep suffering the same fate year after year.
In terms of the future, we're committed to 2031. You have a rock-solid contract from when the golf course was acquired from the equity members to operate this golf course as an 18-hole golf course for 15 years, beginning in 2016. So we have to deal with what we have and do the best that we can in that intervening period to maintain the quality of that facility at whatever we can minimize as the operating costs. And we've said it, I don't know how many times tonight, it starts with a good operations manager and a good support from a board of directors. Other than that, it's kind of a meat and potatoes, do the right thing today. That's all that's really available, as I see it.
You mentioned that you play here once a week and twice somewhere else. I don't know what your opinion is of Cypress, but I've been pretty impressed. I think this course has come a long way in a short time, and I think it's going to get nothing but better. And that foundation, along with a good course manager, I think will ease some of the tension. But I think I can't speak more highly of Cypress than what they've done so far. You know, it's a difference between having a golf course you can play the ball down and not, in my opinion. And I think once we get to the point that we can play it down, we'll have something here. And with a good golf manager, the sky's the limit, I believe.
Evening again, Michael Cardillo, Lot 273. I think what Dick was trying to say, and Bill, I agree with you. I mean, we're contractually obligated until July 1st of 2031. I think what Dick was trying to allude to is what's the vision for after 2031, because we're not contractually obligated to that point. And I do understand that we have to take care of what we have in the intervening period. But one of the things that I'd like to understand from you, and it doesn't need to be tonight, but I would like to be able to see it, is I think the strategic vision has to come whole that each one of you sees.
You want to start on this one, Bill? Let's go the other way.
You know, the ramifications of, you know, of what's been talked about in the future past 2031 is there's like the big gorilla in the room, of course. And the far end of the spectrum is abandon the golf course. The documentation is available, but it takes some work to dig it all up. But my understanding is the results of most communities when a golf course like this is abandoned, the results in property values is catastrophic. So that, yeah, it's okay, we're spending 40, 50, 60 more dollars a month in our dues, but if you don't keep the golf course up and it gets abandoned, Lord knows what'll happen to the value of your house, and, oh, by the way, what's it gonna cost us to maintain these acres and acres and acres of property that are out there that are no longer golf course? We do not want to turn it over to brush and snakes and armadillos and the like, because it runs right through the middle of the access into the community.
I couldn't agree more. I can say from a personal perspective, when the course closed, I'm for sale too. I mean, you know, maybe I need to start saving up now, because when I go out the gate, I'm gonna throw 30 or 40,000 out the gate with it. And that's what I think this course would represent for your home value.
You know, I think one of the things, you know, everybody keeps referring to 2031, and it is, it's a cliff event at that point. The contract is with the equity owners, the former equity owners, and that contract expires at the end of 2031. But all of our governing documents at the time of the sale, our governing documents were amended, and it is part of the common areas of the community. So it is no different than our grand hall that we're sitting in tonight, or the pool, or the pickleball courts, softball field, the RV lot, or any other amenity that's in the community. It would require a 2/3 majority vote of the community to do away with the golf course, just like it would take a 2/3 majority vote to get rid of the swimming pool or get rid of the grand hall. So it's not a cliff event unless 2/3 of the community says, let's get rid of it, let's change it, let's sell it, whatever. But again, it's an amenity of the community, just like anything else. And we need to figure out a way to change that equation where expenses continue to grow, but revenues do not. That's what we got to fight against. We got to grow that top line revenue.
Marty Sawyer, Lot 180. So the current board has eliminated the golf liaison position and created the golf task force. Do you believe that was an effective thing to do? And do you know of anything that actually accomplished besides sending out vicious emails? Thank you.
I don't believe the task force concept is appropriate. The golf course should be managed by a manager who reports to First Service. First Service is being paid to manage the golf course. Let them do their job one way or another, or force them to do their job one way or another. But it is, you know, the task force concept to me is like management by a committee. Good luck.
I agree wholeheartedly.
You know, we have to have something in place. You know, the board made the decision to eliminate the liaison position because there's not a golf committee anymore. But again, First Service is responsible for it. The previous golf manager was a First Service employee. That person is gone. Somebody had to fill in that gap. So this 3-person task force was created. As a homeowner, I have no idea because there is no report from them as far as what they've done, what things they've been working on. It would be nice to see that as part of the board meeting. We have liaison reports. We haven't had a report from the Golf Operations Committee or Task Force.
When First Service came on, part of the selling program is we manage communities with golf courses. Do it. That's their job.
Perfect timing, Carol Steck 1006, because I was like, all right, yep, you may not be the ones that select a golf manager, although now that seems to be up in the air, but let's just say there is one that's hired. How do we make sure, what would you personally do, or recommend that the board do, to make sure that what's being done? I mean, we say, oh, it's FSR's job. Fine, who's checking with FSR? I mean, I have to tell you, the last board response to my email was kind of like, oh, Kevin's kind of swimming. It's like, well, okay, well, wait a minute, who's going to manage the golf manager? Kevin, who right now seems to be swimming along. I want to know what you as individuals are going to bring to the table to help solve this issue, rather than simply pointing the finger that says it's their job. How are you going to make sure they do their job? Thank you.
Go ahead, go ahead.
It's just like any other contract we have. It's accountability. So there should be, we hired First Service as our property management company. We pay an additional monthly fee for golf operations management. Right now, that position is open and needs to be filled. So just like with anything else, the board needs to meet on a regular basis with property management to address issues that are going on in the community. So the first thing, whenever this person gets hired as a golf operations manager, as a board member, I would want to see what is their business plan for 2026 to try to close that gap on the difference between revenue and expenses. So they got to put, that golf operations manager has to present a business plan to the board as far as what are they going to do to turn the corner and get us back to at least trying to get close to break even.
I think, and I don't know, I'm going to plead ignorance here because I don't know where First Service ends and we start, although we employ First Service. How much are we involved in the interview process? I don't know. That's something I'll have to find out if I'm put in this position. But that's one of the reasons I'm sitting here right now. You know, I was in the bar and restaurant business for 5.5 years, and I saw how long it took. We've been here 4 years, and we've been without a bar and restaurant as much as we've had one. So I know a little something about that. I know a little something about running a business. So I've got to know where the boundaries are before I can respond to that question. But I'm in as much of a hurry as anybody else, I assure you.
I, for one, would want to be able to, if someone on the board has some sort of direct responsibility relative to golf, I would want to, if that were me, I would want to know day to day, week to week, exactly what is going on there from the manager. And then you can decide and you can deal with issues. Until you're there and you can ask the questions and demand the answers, then you can start. But until you're in that position, sitting at the sidelines where someone else is managing something, there's not much you can do unless you get your hands dirty and get in there. So someone, whether it be the task force, which I don't like the concept, or some individual has the responsibility of following up and monitoring directly what's going on with the golf course. Simple as that.
Sandra LaFontaine, Lot 230. I'm not a golfer. I live on the golf course. My question is, I'm not a golfer, but my question, John, who was the golf course manager, you could tell from the start of his service that he wasn't a golf course manager. And I can't believe that he stayed in that position. And I'm hearing that he was a First Service employee. So I'm disappointed in First Service for keeping him. And an ordinary person could see that he was.
Sandra, I need you to address a
The
question.
question is, how could he stay on when you could tell when somebody who is as naive about this as I am, could tell that he wasn't. I go, you know, how can he stay on? Why wasn't he not let go? Why did the board keep him? I don't understand. I want to understand that. That's my question.
I don't think they can answer that question, Sandra. They're not on the board right now. If you have another question, certainly ask
Would you
it.
keep somebody like that on the board? The board, would you keep somebody like that? What would you do if you had somebody that wasn't the right material? What would you do?
I, for one, learned a long time ago that most of your human relation problems are solved at the front door by doing a proper vetting and interviewing process. As you say, it should have been obvious. He was an old line country club golf pro. He was not a manager.
Whenever you address a situation, when you have a problem employee, you do progressive discipline, and I can't speak for First Service.
I was involved in the hiring process. I was still on the board, both when Sean was hired, because we transitioned from Leland to First Service, and we hired Sean, and then when John Harbison came on board. Both candidates interviewed well. One of the important things we talked about was Golf Now, and both stated that they had extensive experience in Golf Now. Until they're in here, you really don't know for sure. So they interviewed well enough to get the job. They didn't perform well enough to keep the job, though. Why they stayed as long as, or why John stayed as long as he did, I can't respond to that. I don't know why. There was some obvious problems. The board and property management, I assume we're working through those.
Sorry. Michelle Sawyer, Lot 180. I have a two-part question. The first one, obviously the topic tonight, expense revenue. The golf course is one of our two assets that we have that does bring in revenue to this community. This community is a golfing community. The golf course was here before anything else was here. So we all live in a golf community. It would behoove us to keep our golf course. That said, with the houses that we have available right now, is there a plan, do any of you guys have a plan to market this course to golfers? I do believe Bob Saltzman has done some research, and I understand 35 houses have been sold in the last 18 months. Do we know if those houses were sold to golfers? What is attracting those people to this community other than we have really great HOA dues, low HOA dues for what we have here? The second thing then is, real quick, the second thing is, do you guys have any ideas on cutting other expenses? Again, Bob Saltzman put out on social media some ideas that the community had. So we have a golf course, we have all sorts of other amenities that cost us money. Is there any other ideas that you guys have in cutting costs anywhere else but the golf course? Thank you.
Okay. As far as marketing the golf course, your first question, when I was on the board, we asked mainly the people involved with us, the Summer Dreams, to help us out with developing a tri-fold community brochure that talked about the benefits. You know, what do you get for your monthly assessment, what's all included in that. Talked a little bit about the golf course, talked about the restaurant that was in place at that time. Those copies of that went out to all the realtors so that as they were meeting with prospective clients that might be interested in buying at Summer Glen or considering a 55 and older community here in the Ocala area, that they had that brochure that they can hand to that client saying, hey, this is a really good value for your money. They have a golf course, they have a lot of amenities. Not sure why that wasn't updated and reissued. That was, I think it had a good opportunity to promote Summer Glen to our local realtors. As far as, the board and property management, the board's not a realtor, property management's not a realtor, but we need to get the proper information into the hands of the actual licensed realtors. And that Tri-Road brochure was one of the things we came up with. And I think it'd be probably a good idea to reinstate that and get it updated and back out there in the hands of the realtors.
You're absolutely right, Jeff. That brochure was extremely popular. Got all kinds of positive feedbacks from the various assorted realtors. The people that work our front gate had all kinds of comments. They couldn't keep them on the shelves. They were so popular, and they disappeared from wherever they were placed. One of the issues at Summer Glen is our monthly fees in terms of gross dollars appear high. It appears high till you see what's really in there and what all of the various and assorted services you get compared to the others, but it's really not. But when someone comes through with a realtor that's not 100% familiar with Summer Glen, and they see that number, until they can have it laid out in a piece of paper they can be home and digest, they can get an altogether different impression of this place and say, yeah, it was a nice looking place, and oh yeah, look at all the stuff you get for the fees. It was a great vice, and it is extremely inexpensive. We should get the thing updated and issued as soon as possible.
I think this is gonna take some serious creative thinking and maybe some incentives in some areas. Whether it be with a real estate agent or the person selling the home, to get some incentive to get the golf course in their forefront of their memory. I know when we bought, we got, I want to say we got a month free golf. That may be wrong. It may just be a couple of rounds, but I think it was a month. Unfortunately, we moved when they redid all the greens. So, once again, the color luck. So, but there needs to be some thinking outside the box and something that can be sustained maybe, and it's going to have to be refreshed because, sooner or later, even the greatest program becomes dull. So I think that along with what these gentlemen have said, the brochure, although I've never had much luck with printed material, but, our gate's right there. You come in, it's an easy push. You got a command audience. So just some side thoughts.
My name was mentioned, so I figured I'd come up myself and speak for myself. Bob Saltzman, Lot 1007. So, how many houses were sold, with all due respect to the brochure? Because I saw it and I was impressed by it and I thought it was great. But how many houses got sold because we handed out those brochures? Anybody?
How do you track that?
How do you track that? I don't know. How many houses got sold? You would say, I bought this house because of this brochure. So I'm going to hazard a guess, 0. And I think I'd like to ask, because I've brought this up to each of you individually in private conversations, but I'd like to ask it now directly of each of you. Do you believe that if we sold houses or intentionally tried to sell houses to golfers in the wider world, in other words, not wait for somebody to come to a local realtor to buy a particular house that's on the market, but try to create demand in the market, in the golfing world, for people who might be interested in coming to Central Florida to take a look at Summer Glen. Of course, there's always houses. There's 40 or 50 now. So would you be interested in exploring marketing to the wider golf world so that we can create demand for our properties and thereby sell them to golf members, 50 of whom, if we got out of the 304 homes that were sold over the last 5 years, would cut our deficit on the golf course by almost half. So would you be interested in exploring that marketing effort? Thank you very much. Individually, question to all of you. Thank you.
I'll go.
Go ahead.
I'll make it easy. Bob, as we discussed when you and I sat down individually, I think there should be no stone unturned that we look at what we can do to generate more revenue for the golf course. So as far as exploring something like that, sure, let's explore it. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make economic sense. As we discussed, you know, what is the cost of marketing? You're talking about, when you and I spoke, you're talking about some type of nationwide search, buying email addresses for people that currently live on a golf course up north and want to move south. What's the cost of that versus the potential benefit of people coming to Summer Glen because they got an email from us saying, hey, come here to Central Florida, and because we have a golf course, we're 55 and older community. So yeah, could it be explored? Should it be explored? Yes. Don't know where it's going to go though.
No, I think it's worth a look, and definitely some research. I know we found this community by going 55 and over golf communities. And because we had a house for 12 years on the Gulf, about 100 miles south of here, and we decided we wanted to move a little further north to make travel up to where we're from a little quicker if we needed to get up there. But, you know, I thank God we found this place, to be honest with you. But if the golf course goes, not so much.
In theory, Bob, the concept sounds intriguing, put it at that, and I think it deserves some thought and to take a look at it. I don't think I'm ready to sign on and invest at this moment, because there's a lot more to be learned in terms of costs, potential benefits from people who have some expertise. But in theory, it's interesting, yes, no question about it.
I just want to say thank you, election committee, for not making us come to the mic and repeatedly ask the same question to a different candidate each time.
That wasn't a question. Thank you. Are we done?
We must be.
Is everybody happy? With that, I would like to thank the candidates, the other members of the election committee, and mostly this great audience. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.